Hello there, and thank you for staying with us. Welcome to People, Politics and Power. We are glad you could join us on this edition. The spate of attacks on institutions of learning and the mass abduction of students in Nigeria have become a source of concern across the globe. The first major incident in 2014 put the deteriorating security situation in the country on the international spotlight. What many thought was a thing of the past has reared its ugly head again and again, and with greater intensity, and well into Nigeria's northwestern territory. In the last 4 months, at least 5 incidents have made headlines, with the latest in Kaduna State. Unlike the 2014 Chibok schoolgirls abduction, where the agenda of the attackers was well publicized as a deliberate attempt to cripple the education system, in line with the Boko Haram philosophy that Western education is forbidden, researchers seem to be having a hard time decoding what the motives are this time around. Why some scholars label the attacks as terrorism, patterned after the Boko Haram ideology, by hardened elements of the group who have made inroads into the country and regrouped across various parts, including the northwest zone. Others say it is simply banditry and a deliberate attempt to strike at soft targets and force state and federal governments into a tight corner to negotiate and to get ransoms instead of counter-attacks for fear of collateral damage. Now, yet another school of thought believes that in the case of Kaduna, the bandits are deliberately targeting the state and governors who have recently taken a tough stand not to negotiate or pay ransoms by bringing them to their knees with the attacks on vulnerabilities inherent in the state's or in the nation's security architecture. What is also evident is the fact that due to public attention and outrage, which puts pressure on government, it may be easier for the criminals to attack schools, carry out mass abductions, receive huge ransoms, and then procure more weapons. Beyond the citadels of learning, kidnappings and abductions have become so frequent across every part of the country, and no one is immune. Individuals traveling on interstate highways are routinely abducted. Even within city centers, people suddenly disappear and, in many cases, are never heard of or seen again. Sometimes, their lifeless bodies turn up by chance. When abductions happen, for the average Nigerian, it doesn't matter so much as to call on the police, as there are many instances where no help is rendered, while advising the affected persons to negotiate and pay the requested ransom for the return of their loved ones. Nigerians simply resort to faith and self-help by raising monies to pay the criminals, and in some cases, their loved ones never return alive. Without doubt, the sanctity of the human life seems to have lost its value and meaning in Nigeria. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres recently joined calls on the Nigerian government to ensure that the nation's education system is not crippled. And President Muhammadu Buhari recently told the world that the nation that is Nigeria has the capacity to deploy massive forces against the bandits in the spaces where they operate. He also assured his recently appointed service chiefs of his backing, while in fact mandating them to go heavy on the criminals. On the program today, we shall review this burning security issue, safety in the nation's educational institutions, and the future of the school system, particularly in northern Nigeria. We shall also be looking at the larger security challenges facing the country across every state, and of course the hazards. We shall also try and hazard some guesses as to why it all went wrong and where it went wrong, and possibly find some urgent remedies to this big challenge. We'll be back in a moment. We will meet our guest analysts. Stay with us. All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get to meet our guest analysts who are right here in the studio with us. Two of them. Osa Ekpen, director, is a lawyer and a journalist. Thank you so much for joining us, Osa.
It's nice being here.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Also joining us is Dr. Emeka Ambrose Aligwara. Dr. Aligwara is a security and defense specialist, and he runs the Center for Democratic Defense, which is based in Kaduna State in northwest Nigeria. Thank you so much, Dr. Aligwara,
It's a pleasure
for joining us. Right. So, I assume that you are very familiar, gentlemen, you are familiar with the challenges Nigeria has today in terms of insecurity. But more critical is the fact that it has become almost a daily affair that schools are raided, schools are invaded, and tens of students, and in some cases hundreds of students, are abducted and taken away by criminals who are described as bandits. First, what would be your reaction, Osa, to the latest abductions, the videos that we have seen on social media of students who were abducted in Kaduna, in fact, abducted from their hostels at night, with some of them half dressed, some of them half naked, and being tortured and beaten by these bandits?
Well, I think firstly I would just say that every right-thinking Nigerian that has a sense of good conscience and patriotic gusto will naturally be vexed and disappointed at the level of insecurity we are experiencing in this country. And it is so unfortunate that when you try to treat an ailment, you diagnose it wrongly and treat it with the wrong medication. These are some of the consequences of such actions. A situation where you begin to pamper bandits and criminals by negotiating with them, paying ransom, you are bound to encourage them. And there's no gainsaying the fact that if we want to tell ourselves the truth in this country, this banditry that is going on, this terrorism that is going on, an attack on our schools, attacking the source pulse in the nation's security architecture, which is focusing on secondary schools and even higher institutions now, is as a result of the fact that there is a connivance between people who are in the system and these bandits. You can't deny that. Even recently, one of the kingpin in Katsina State confessed that he has given up the trade because when ransom is negotiated, reportedly or supposedly, say 400 million naira, only 30 million naira got to them. So what happened to the 370 in between? So who took it? So these people who are now merchants of debt, those negotiating with the bandits, are also benefiting from this occurrence or from these unwholesome practices.
So it has become a lucrative business.
It's a lucrative business. It's business. To the extent that it's becoming so funny, so routine, that when bandits go to a school, Someone will just say, don't worry, in 2 days' time they will be released. And in 2 days' time they will be released. And you know, sometimes media go to the extent of telling you the amount that will be paid. This will be denied, but at the end of the day, this will be the amount that will be paid. So to me, it shows that somehow, some way, it has become a booming business, a booming enterprise between some forces in position of authority and the bandits. So if government is not willing to look inward by purging itself of these criminal elements within that is colluding with these bandits, we have just started the beginning of a very unwholesome situation that might consume this country and totally destroy our educational system.
Dr. Alikwara, do you agree that a wrong prognosis of the problem may have resulted to what we have on our hands at the moment?
Yeah, yes, to an extent. But in the introductory remark, you said, when did we get to this stage? How do we get to this stage we are in now? It is an unfinished national question. We never addressed any issue in Nigeria till today, even our presidency. We never addressed a national question on that. People think on terms of ethnic lines. It's an unfinished national question. From the first Republic till now, we are still thinking in terms of region, where it come from, where it didn't come from, merit or no merit. So one issue that we could address concretely happens, it trivializes it. Let us ask ourselves, this Boko Haram, how did it start? They say they don't like Western education, but they are using cars and other things. Those who use them abandon them. Sheriff is still on the road. He used them and abandoned them. Others get crashed on it. Recently I went to Borno. I saw things myself. I went to IDPs. You can't get these Boko Haram people unless you do what you're supposed to have done to IDPs. The IDPs are starving. The Boko Haram will go and get food anywhere. Come and feed them and stay with them. So even if your soldiers are looking for them, they won't see them. When Brutal made the settlement 20 years, I know that it was alluding to that. Brutal said that unless they grapple with the civilians are going to grapple. I don't know those IDPs who are starving. Borno is merchant area now in terms of food. That these Boko Haram people go and get food, go and give the IDPs. When they give, they say with them, they remove their uniform. If you like, get 1 million soldiers to go and look for them. They won't tell them say they're here. They won't tell them say they're here. They shield them.
So what happens to all the aids, all the food and other forms of aids that is supposed to get to these IDPs from both the federal, state, and international non-governmental organizations that are working in that area?
It don't get to them. There are some merchants around who takes it from them. And again, ask yourself, before the Boko Haram, what was the educational situation in the north? We have a lot of out-of-school children. Where are they coming from? But their governors to come and tell all amount of nonsense. Did they spend money on the education? No. They created those people as reserve for whatever thing they want to do. Jonathan came with Almajiri schools. What happened to it? They see it's an insult on them. Most of those schools are used for Almajiri something or for IDPs. Go and see what is happening there. So the bottom line is this. This our national, unfinished national question, which is oppressive material relation, internally and globally, is the root cause of all these things. Those who control it, when you want to remove them from it, they react negatively and sponsor them. Who collect the money the Boko Haram collect? Okay, now, there's a threat. They know that they cannot survive without sending it to the southern parts. It's not true. They started. Now, once again, it was mishandled. It was mishandled because we allow Omoteku to operate. And that means government losing the central thing it's supposed to do, security. When Malali said, the minister just said it, I was in sympathy with him. Why do you divide your main duty, your main function, provision of life, protection of life and property? Why do you share it to another person? It has never been shared anywhere in the world. Now you share it.
We're on a federal system.
Yes.
Yes.
Federal system.
In most federal systems,
remember, sir,
the sub-units
it's not done. It's not
do have theirs.
Was there any legislation to that effect?
Yeah, but the South.
Was there any legislation to that effect?
Even the Southwest did.
Wait. The law, see, the Southwest was afterthought. Understand what? Federal government, that exclusive thing on the federal government. Granted, we are running this thing. Is it only in security we are running it? Are we not running it in finance? We are not everywhere. It's a federal system. But then, by saying, if they attack you, attack them back, we can never locate all the points of terrorists in this country. More will emerge. I'm telling you, by any state, any government saying, when they attack you, attack them back. You cannot use a terrorist again. We are having arm, I'm having arm. How do you define it? You see the outshoot between Autumn and Kawan of Bauchi State. You saw it. If you say you have your gun, I will tell myself, I'm myself. So who is a terrorist? And the federal government not actually baptized these people as terrorists, as they did in IPOB. So treating issues differently gives you different results. We are not done the right. By the time we done the right, we conquer them.
Sir, can we make a clear distinction, as it is today, between the Boko Harams, who have been declared as a terrorist organization globally, and the bandits, whose activities right now appear to be more widespread than the Boko Haram?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, short before that, I agree with him on one point that the failure of government to perform its primary responsibility is responsible for what is happening, because Section 14(2)(b) of the Constitution 1999 as amended is very clear that the primary responsibility of government is to ensure security of lives and property of its citizens, and they have failed in that respect. But like you try to raise, we want to approbate and reprobate. If you want to run the federal system, for God's sake, run the federal system. If you don't want, then let's know what we are doing. If you are running the federal system, I don't see anything wrong with Amotekun, provided it's done within the ambits of the law.
Yes.
It doesn't stop Southeast, South, or wherever, or even state governments. Like in Edo State, now they have a police constabulary, which they've just inaugurated, to help strengthen the security. So coming to your point, the issue is that it also boils down with what you have said on addressing the national question. We are so nepotistic in this country, so tribalistic, and so religiously fanatical. So everything we do is seen from the prism of tribe and religion. Where is this man from? How does he worship his God? And these are mundane things that shouldn't matter in nation building. And this thing we are like to shape and direct our consciousness and our responses and our reflexes to national occurrences, to the extent that Boko Haram had to be classified a terrorist organization internationally. The government today, the Nigerian government today does not regard the Boko Haram as a terrorist organization. It's not because of the international classification. You understand when even this thing came about Fulani herdsmen, there was this intense negotiation with the media that is stereotyping a particular tribe, that it should just be called herdsmen. But I said, yes, speaking as a media scholar, that is a good argument, that you don't stereotype people. But you also know that it is also a descriptive manner. For example, we are talking of spare part sellers in this country. You say Igbo spare part sellers. That does not mean that it's derogatory, because more of them are in that business, or most of them are in that business.
Or Ijo fishermen.
Or Ijo fishermen. You know, so that is the thing. So, but because of this, our tie to where we come from, the way we worship our God, you know, we allow our sense of patriotism to be beclouded by all these ethnic and religious sentiments. So for me, there is a relationship between Boko Haram and banditry. I will even agree with one of the school of thought that you highlighted in your introductory remark, that some people believe that these bandits are members of Boko Haram, the hardened members who have infiltrated the Nigerian communities, you know, because you have to come in some different shape and size, or shape or form. Don't also forget, like I said, this country will just try to sweep things under the carpet. A former top member of the All Progressive Congress, the ruling party, is it Kawu Baraje from Kwara State, openly, unequivocally stated that Fulani herdsmen were brought from neighboring countries to help them win election in 2015. That he even raised the issue that if we use these people now, how are we going to disarm them by the time the election is over? And these are the same people now that have penetrated our forest. And it was strengthened earlier by even the president commander-in-chief himself, who said that these herdsmen are not Nigerians. If they are not Nigerians, what are you doing about protecting your territory, your borders? And how can a ragtag army, you know, be able to suppress or defeat the Nigerian army? And like one of them had also confessed, which was in social media everywhere, nobody has controverted that today, that they stay in their bushes and government officials bring AK-47 and sophisticated weapons for them. That is why I said, and both of us have agreed, that it's merchandise that is going on. So to an extent, there is hardly any, the herdsmen is just a wing of Boko Haram, simple and short. Maybe the local wing, you know, to terrorize internationally, locally, why Boko Haram once in a while come in, you know, to raid. So for me, Boko Haram, Fulani herdsmen, they are one and the same thing, but they operate in different form and guise.
Dr. Aligwara, taking a cue from that, I mean, you are a scholar, you are in the specialist in defense and, of course, security area. From your study of the situation over the years, beginning from, let's say, from 2009, when the Boko Haram actually began terrorizing this country, up until now, that we have the problem of banditry and the abduction of school children at every available opportunity. What have you been able to find out? How much have you been able to decipher of the situation on hand?
In anything I do in life, history is important. The history of this is important. It is an issue here, which borders on importing the Fulanis to come and vote. Our head of state failed so many elections. Each time he fell. And each time they increased the number of people they import. Go and check. Go and check voters register. But that of 2015 was massive. They have a home outside Daura, just some sketch of Daura. And they have settled there. No person asks whether they have Nigerian passport or you don't have anything. They come in and goes out. So I think that incident, perhaps if I had to say I won his election once, this influx had been reduced. This trying and failing, each time man will ask himself, what do I do next?
It doesn't really matter how many times a man falls.
Yeah, but that was when they opened the gate.
His ability to rise each time he falls.
Yeah.
So I mean that
is for a healthy philosopher.
Yeah, but that's exactly not a basis for.
If he's not a healthy philosopher, that is a joke. Why must I fall every time? You ask you that. So that was when they opened the gate. This time they say they close border. Or a makeshift. That was when they opened the border. And that was when Nigeria had no border again. Designable border between us and the Fulanis. Go there, there's no designable border. So what do? We're having two countries running one election. The Fulanis and Nigerians. They're all over the place, even in Kaduna now, they're all over the place. So the increase in the number of Fulani we have started in 2015, more. It had been happening before. But that time, as I said, what of our immigration officers? Where are they in that place? They're not there. Because that's a suicide if you stop any of them. Then kill yourself. So definitely, something has to be done. And that has to be done has to be, how do we recover ourselves? How do we have functional national integration, which I may define as minimum consensus that bind members of the social group together. The provision of social services, both public and private, for the system normal growth and change. We need this thing. We need it. In a situation where having all this unemployment, people are eating fat, during the election you recruit them, the other time you turn them away. You will not help us. This side overflogged. But what do? The other day, people were describing Nigeria as an oil-producing nation. I told them, by no measure where I am, people should regard Nigeria as an oil-producing nation. We are an oil-consuming nation. From oil boom to oil doom. How can you differentiate? We are importing refined crude, exporting crude. And people you export to, refine it and bring it to you. You pay more, but they have added value. And you are equal for it. Sixth in the world, we cannot maintain one refinery. Now, the lawyer is Dangote. Is that how it's supposed to be? How much are you spending on subsidy? Can the amount of money you spend in 1 month subsidy refine one or repair one? It was working before. Who collapsed it? Who collapsed it? So, my brother, nothing has happened. Nothing has changed. If you continue this way, Nigeria born one day. If you continue this way, Nigeria born one day. Look at in Abuja. Some empty houses. People own them. They have gone to their villages each year, come and collect rent. Time will reach when people who will pay will say, I don't have. If you like, come. Because all these things are there. We are seeing it now. It will happen one day. I'm a tenant, I will not pay. Come now. It will happen. It will be happening.
Okay. So let's
we can't run this country with rental money. Rent security. We run country with industrial capital money. It don't run country like this. Rent. You thief. You go and build a house. Go to your house. Each year you say, my agent, bring money. Time will reach. Don't mind them.
So let's return to the issue of the very pressing issue of safety in schools. Like I said, in the last 4 months, there have been more than 5 reported cases of school invasions, abductions, ransom seeking, very well publicized. In fact, one of the states, as at now, I think that's Niger State, has in fact shut down all its public schools.
Yes.
One other state, Zamfara State, has shut down all its boarding schools. And there are indications that many more states might just be following along this line. And it's not just limited to the north alone now, or to the northwest alone. We also have reports of a school that was invaded in Edo State a week or so ago. And some lecturers, some students abducted. In Kaduna, there have been, in the last week or so, cases of about 2 or 3 more aborted abductions in schools. You know, now there are those who think that the schools have now become very soft targets for these bandits, and that they are able to gather as many people as possible. In the latest case in Kaduna, for instance, where 39 students or more have been abducted, and the bandits are demanding 500 million.
Well, it is very lamentable that we got to this situation. Clearly speaking, you are correct that they are targeting suspects, and they have seen schools as one of the easiest places to go, or a suspect to really mine. Sadly, no nation, I repeat, can ever develop beyond the quality of its education. And this thing is more intense in the Northwest and Northeast. And we know that by statistics, ordinarily, that is a section of the country that is facing educational challenge that needs a lot of catching up to do. You know, because a lot of out-of-school children, this promotion of this Alemajere system and what have you. And now you are pushing it to the extent that even those who are embracing education are being forced to stay at home. You see, I think what happened is the way we treated the matter from the word go. This way of politicizing everything, seeing everything from the prism of tribe and religion, you know, negotiating with bandits. And like I said, I still insist, if government does not purge itself critically, you will not find an end to this thing, because it is merchandise that is going on pure and simple. Look, my brother, how do you carry over 300 students? If you are going to use coastal bus, 18-seater bus, you are talking of about 15 buses that you need to carry, a minimum. How can you carry 300 students? Where did you take them through? Where are the Nigerian security? My brother, there's collaboration somewhere. Let's tell ourselves the truth. We should not kid about these things. No, but we will all die someday. Why should they be scared of saying the truth? There's a connivance. People are ripping off. But I can tell you, like they say in where I come from, if you throw a stone to the market, you don't know who is going to meet. Your mother might not be there. Your aunt might be there. Your sister might be there. Your cousin might be there. Some of these people will see that one day, Mokingo market, you know, go return back again. They will also have themselves being victims. And like he just pointed out, this thing is snowballing. And a situation where you make it impossible for people to develop themselves mentally and otherwise, that's by educating themselves, they are going to resort to some other means to let off steam. And that's why there's an increase in the level of drug addiction and drug consumption in the country today. Because people are idle. Now, when you remove children from school, what do you want them to be doing at home? Clearly speaking, as you also stated in your introductory remarks, because the governor of Niger State, Bello, and El-Rufai of Kaduna State took a tough stance against bandits. Look, we are not going to negotiate. I guess they were just fed up. We are not going to negotiate with the bandits. That is why these people now say, okay, let us show you some pepper. If you say you are not going to negotiate, to bring them to their knees. I just hope they will have the courage and have the support of the security to insist on not negotiating with these people and beef up security around all these so-called soft targets. We have the capacity. At least the NSA has told us so. Brigadier Mogunu, General Mogunu, that look, this is a Major General, retired Major General Mogunu, that we have the capacity. But the challenge we have has been maybe misapplication and under-application, or maybe lack of appropriate strategy. I think they should sit down now that we have new service chiefs and ensure that they go back to the drawing board. For God's sake, we are talking of the future of this nation. No country can develop beyond the quality of its education. Can we compare ourselves to China, to South Korea, to Malaysia, that we all started at the same time? We are still just grooming the dark. Primitive accumulation. That's what our leaders believe in. You see somebody stealing billions of naira. What is he going to do with it? How many rooms is he going to sleep in a house? How many food is he going to eat? And that is why God find a way of giving them sicknesses. They keep treating themselves for sicknesses.
All right, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll be looking at addressing this challenge of banditry, and with particular focus on the attacks on educational institutions. Stay with us. Thank you so much for staying with us. Dr. Aligwara, some people have suggested that perhaps one way of dealing with this situation is not just to look at the carrot alone, but adopt both the carrot and stick approach in dealing with this situation. What are your thoughts on this? And I asked that question against the backdrop of what Osa said earlier on, that perhaps what is happening in Niger and Kaduna states is a fallout of the very tough stance taken by the chief executives of both states. Now, a recent report that was put out by the Kaduna state government indicated that in 2020 alone, 937 persons were killed and 1,972 persons were kidnapped in Kaduna State alone. And in the first 3 months of this year, or the first 2 months of this year, we have seen several more kidnappings in these two states than perhaps happened in 2020.
Well, the truth remains what it is. Negotiating with the bank is not the best way. No matter how you negotiate. The more you negotiate, the more they come. And they spread to all over the country if you start negotiating. We resist it. Now, we are not fighting only Boko Haram. Boko Haram, their philosophy is that they don't like Western education. To that extent, attacking institutions is part of their philosophy. But we're going to take it. We are fighting both ISIS and Islamic State of West Africa. Not only our own internally Boko Haram. It's not easy not to negotiate with them, but we have that's the best stand. And we have to work hard with our neighbors, our neighboring countries. If you can cut off source of supply from them, we win. Source of supply. That's why when they were abducting boys in schools, I become afraid. Because when those boys, the ones that can be able to radicalize, become their members. Remember after the Chibok abduction, that was when the rise in suicide bombers, mainly female, started. They converted them. They become suicide bombers. It's going to be very difficult for all of us. But the price we pay by resisting will be less than the price we are going to pay by negotiating with them. Yeah. Terrorists are insatiable. The money they are making, no industry is making it in this country. You just hide yourself. We are lucky. I will not say this. We are lucky. By the time our students, your own child, descend on you through this means, you run away. You can go and hide. Tell them, say, you have been kidnapped. Understand? The only thing we do is to resist it. We will pay less price by resisting it. And let it be more difficult for them to operate than easy. What Irfan said is correct. But he started it late. Because that time, like I said, it's a national question. It was happening in Southern Kaduna, Kajuru, and Kaswa Magani, and those people. No person addressed it. It was seen as if it's a Southern Kaduna problem. It was seen as if it was a Kaduna. In one instance, when they killed some people, the villagers reacted. In the open, he said, Hausa has killed the Fulanis. Should the governor say anything like that? Why not pacify the situation? He came out and said openly that the Hausas are killing the Fulanis. That's a statement that can be disturbing to anybody. And within 2 weeks, the people retaliated. So, my dear, all of us, we have a live snake in our hand. We have a live snake in our hand. We have to work together to kill it. And I believe if we do what we're supposed to do, as neighbors, as anything, we will win this battle.
Okay, Osa, the problem, the security challenge in Nigeria appear to be growing bigger by the day. Because just recently, I mean, we already know of the Eastern Security Network.
Yeah.
And now, there is a declaration by Asari Dokubo, Alaji Asari Dokubo, of what he calls a Biafra customary government. He has declared himself the leader of that Biafra customary government. He has named 2, 3 or 4 other persons as members of his cabinet. This is likely going to get a very swift reaction from the Nigerian government, and again, particularly in the south of the country, another security crisis on our hands.
Yeah, that is the unfortunate situation which we have even identified in the program since, that when you treat issues with kid gloves, or you begin to see issues from the perspective of religion and ethnicity alone, you are bound to have this kind of boomerang. Because you see, people like Asari Dokubo are emboldened and angry that some people are allowed to conduct themselves with impunity. And when they were doing their Niger terror militancy, there was a crackdown on them. You know? But people are doing it with the pay, and you are negotiating and paying. They were even fighting for resource control because you have degraded and despoiled their environment to the extent that fishes cannot be, you can't farm in the south, you can't do anything tangible. But now, these are people who just want money. No, we have asked ourselves in this program, what is the purpose of the bandits attacking targets? What is their vision? What is their mission? None. But Niger Delta militants had a mission. They had a reason. They had a basis. So if he sits down and sees that all their efforts are not in vain, then he can decide to say, well, if that is the case, let us also say we are not weaklings. The truth is that, like we have said in this program, we are sitting on a keg of gunpowder. We are students of history. Look at the history of Somalia. It started like this. Somalia is almost a non-state. It's a failed state. All the indices of a failed state are existent in Nigeria. If you have to name 10 indices to say a failed state, Nigeria has scored or ticked 7, 8 of them. So it is just tiny. It is going to snap if we don't manage this thing very well. Because just like you said, I agree with that. Aside Dokubo has made this pronouncement, Nnamdi Kanu is being emboldened out there, doing his own. Some other people are going to have what you call ethnic warlords, religious warlords emerging from different centers or different corners of the country. So that is why government needs to be decisive. Because even the Fulani we are talking about, my brother, we have to be honest with ourselves. They are not Nigerian Fulanis. I mean, you and I grew up in this country now. Then we will be excited when we see Fulani bringing cow in our place. We all run out. Mala, mala, mala. They live with us. No crisis, nothing. But because these are imported Fulanis from neighboring countries, they don't have that compassion that the Nigerian Fulani will have. They don't have it. Most of my friends, some of my best friends are Fulanis. And I can never, in short, I even trust them more than I trust some of my own brethren. Because we have lived together. But these foreign Fulanis are the ones. And if you as a leader now say because of that ethnic thing, Fulani, you are not going to touch them, fine. These are the consequences of it. Tomorrow you now want to weigh down heavily on Asari Dokubo? No, it's not going to be possible. We are going to resist it. You can't weigh down him. Because you have other people that you have not been able to weigh down. So because he's aside the Kubana and he's from South Side, you will now say you are going to crush him? It won't be possible. We will resist it.
Dr. Ligwara, the president has given a shoot-aside order at anybody carrying an AK-47.
Yes.
But one of my guests on this program a few weeks back did say, and I'm talking about Senator Shehu Sani, say that that when you issue directives to bandits who don't speak English, you issue directives to them in English language, you are probably wasting your time. You should address them in the language which you understand.
You see, what we know is shoot aside order from the president. But what has gone between that time and now, we do not know. Before he made the statement, what may have happened from the time he convinced them where to meet, where he made the statement, and the statement we cannot know. Just like the one who visited them inside bush. He was denying that he don't know where they are. But when he wanted to go, he went to see them where they are. All this is a game. Definitely, I don't believe in what the president said. I don't believe, not only today, I don't believe what he said. And as a president, must he come there to say it? Don't you have deputies? Can't he use the chief of army staff? Can't use anything? It will make such a statement you cannot easily withdraw. You see, we must be diplomatic. You know, all these things, we have to be a little bit diplomatic. We are talking about we are not going to pacify with them. You as a president, you shouldn't be at the forefront of doing this. You can create a little loophole from which you can escape if things went wrong. But unfortunately, it's not up to that level. But for me, the statement is not new. The only thing, if any person carrying AK-47 should be shot aside, fine. It doesn't mean that those who are waiting for them and those who going to them are all bandits. Is it not? So let us ban AK-47 outside. For who is importing AK-47? From where is AK-47? Who has the right to import? Is it those boys carrying cows that's not their own? So this is a elite problem. Purely elite problem. Who is importing the, if you don't want, if you don't have, you don't want all those cars, all those guns and whatever. Who is importing them? Can those boys import them? They should know whom to go and talk to sort importation of this thing. It's very easy. We have the military industrial complex. There are no person who can tell me today, see, if I look at a bullet, I will not know from which country it came from. Why would this not say? We know the country that manufacturing this thing. Go to them, who is importing this thing? We have the military industrial complex between the government, the manufacturer of this, and the host government. What happened when Uganda wanted to import? Did they trace him all to South Africa? So it's not like that. Making the statement is okay, is a good statement, but then it will not solve the problem. He should work hard to know those who are importing these things. There are no way see AK-47, he don't know the manufacturer. There are no gun, you will not know the manufacturer. Work with them, ask them who is importing this.
A few years back, Osa, the Nigerian police came out to say all those who had arms in their possessions should submit them. Some way, if I said, okay, I think after a while I said, register them. Yeah. But some ways, I mean, in fact, there was a clear directive that they should give up all illegal arms to the police.
Yes.
So, after several months of that directive, that there are still AK-47, such high caliber weapon in the hands of people. And some of these bandits who operate in the bushes and in the forests, in the various places, are not just carrying AK-47s, they are carrying much more sophisticated
AK-49
weapons.
now. AK-49.
So, Where is that directive? Why isn't there a similar directive to say all those who are in possession of AK-47s or all such sophisticated weapons should deliver them to specific places? Recall that during the, well, I won't call it an uprising, but during the crisis in the Niger Delta at the time, there was this policy of
trading arms
for cash,
yeah,
and all of that. Did that policy succeed? Why, if it did, why is it not being a variant of it not being adopted at this point in time?
Sure, it is. It boils down to the fact that government has not shown enough political willpower, to tackle the situation. Otherwise, we already have a template, like you said, during the late President Yaradua, when he negotiated with Niger Delta militants and agitators. You know, that template is there and can be modified. But as I have said, and I believe, government is not determined, it's not decisive enough in tackling this situation. Once they convince themselves that they are decisive, we will solve the problem.
Dr. Aligwara, your final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thought is that I wish Nigeria well, but first thing must be done first.
Which is?
First thing must be done first. We should address ourselves nationally. We should leave primordial sentiments and see every Nigerian as a Nigerian, not Igbo, Hausa, or Yoruba. Today, they are not talking about Igbo president. What have I gone to do with Igbo president? Let a good Nigerian emerge. That's it.
All right, let a good Nigerian emerge, and let us see ourselves first and foremost as Nigerians before our ethnic origins and affiliations. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Ekme is director, is a lawyer and a journalist. He's based in Lagos, was joining us here on the program today. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's nice meeting you.
Director OSA. And Dr. Emeka Ambrose Aligwara, Security and Defense Specialist, runs the Center for Democratic Defense in Kaduna State. Thank you so much. All right, that's our program for today. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.